What's up, guys? Today, our video will be a tour of Marrakech, one of the most important cities in all of Morocco, located in northern Africa. Marrakech has a rich history and culture influenced by many groups such as the Amazigh people that we now refer to as Berbers, the Islamic rulers of the Almoravid and the Almohad dynasty, as well as Jewish settlers who were there for more than 500 years. Through this tour, you'll become familiar with some of the diversity that makes up the historical and cultural fabric of Marrakech. Our first stop is the Koutoubia Mosque near the main square of Marrakech. The main square is called the Jamia Al Fana Square. The Moorish style mosque was originally built by the Almohad Caliphate as a token of remembrance for the capture of the northern Moroccan territories. The original mosque that no longer remains today was much shorter than the one we see currently standing, although rocks from this former mosque still remain today next to the new one. You might ask, what happened to this mosque? The Almoravid dynasty was setting its eyes over Marrakech for 100 years, and they had the opportunity to take the city. They succeeded, and they wanted to wipe out all traces from the previous Almohads from Marrakech. They were going to destroy the mosque because it was built by the Almohads, but they had a big problem. Destroying a mosque would mean desecrating a religious symbol and site, which would anger God. The plan was to start a rumor that the Almohads were not practicing real Islam and they were against the will of God. After a while, the rumor spread and the Almoravids now had the right to destroy the mosque and build their own, the Kutubia Mosque. You might be wondering, what are those three golden balls on top of the mosque? Well, the story goes the Almoravid queen broke her fast during the month of Ramadan. She was very sorry and wanted to atone for her sins. What she did was donate all her jewelry to the mosque as an atonement to God. The people working at the mosque melted the gold and made this decorative symbol at top. What else could they have used it for? Our next stop is the Bahia Palace. The Bahia Palace was commissioned by the Alauid dynasty, which is actually the current ruling dynasty of Morocco. It was created and commissioned by the Grand Vizier Si Musa, the second in command, and his four wives. It was quite common for Muslims to have multiple wives in the olden times, but now it can only happen in some Islamic states if the first wife agrees. The palace contains three gardens, a courtyard, and housing for the wives, or as they called it, a harem. The design of the palace is classic Islamic architecture. This includes a lot of calligraphy, colors, and intricately designed tiles. Architects were not allowed to draw humans or animals. This is because, according to Islamic tradition, painting a human or an animal offends God as it portrays yourself as the one who is creating them, not God. The palace is a riad, which means a big house with a garden and a fountain. Sadly, Si Musa died 8 years after the palace was built, and it was uninhabited for multiple decades until it became a tourist site for us to see. The next area is the Jewish Quarter or the Mela. It is one of the oldest areas in Marrakech, dating back to over 500 years ago. The Jewish neighborhood was called Mela, inspired by the native word for salt, melhe. Given that this group was well known for salt trading, this name was perfect. However, the Jews mostly moved away after a few hundred years to Casablanca, where they could make a lot more money trading, as Casablanca was very close to the salt trading routes in Africa. Africa was very well known for salt trading, especially after the Mali Empire, an empire located actually in modern day Mali, who cultivated a lot of salt. The rest of the Jews later either moved to the United States or Israel after the state was formed after World War II for a haven for the Jews after the Holocaust. There are only like three or four, I would say, Jews living in the quarter today. The Jewish quarter has been mostly taken off by spice markets, but the name of roads and houses are still of Jewish influence. Let's move on to something modern, but with the same amount of historical importance. The Margerel Garden was designed by the French artist Jacques Margerel. After traveling around North Africa and the Mediterranean, he eventually decided to settle permanently in Marrakech. He purchased a 4-acre plot situated on the border of a palm grove in Marrakech and built the house in Moroccan style. In 1931, he commissioned the architect Paul Sinoir to design a cubist villa for the property. He planned a luxurious garden that would be known as the Jardin Margerel, which means Margerel Garden in French. The garden became his life's work, and he devoted himself to developing it for almost 40 years. But it really was costly for him. And in 1947, he opened it to the public so that he could start to get funds for the project. He sold off parcels of his land to fund the project because it was getting really expensive for him and he was having less money. After his divorce in the 1950s, he was forced to sell the house and the land because he had no funds left. Since 2010, the property has been owned by the fashion magnate Yves Saint Laurent.